New York Fashion Week is kicking off today, which means a lot of designers are out to grab your attention. But when everyone's trying to do that, it can be kind of hard to cut through all this visual noise, right? Because just think about it. I mean, all the red carpet looks we've been seeing lately, they all kind of blend together. So Joan Summers has been thinking about a lot of this and the looks that actually do force us to pay attention. According to her, no one's doing it better right now than Chappell Roan with that dress she wore to the Grammys. So Joan's here to get into that. Welcome back to Commotion.
Hi, nice to see you again.
It's good to see you. So look, Joan, I mean, we obviously live in this world where there's just so much that's competing for our attention in the fashion world, right? So compared to previous years, how hard is it to create a look that captivates our attention and makes a lasting impression?
Yeah, it's almost impossible. I think my very first appearance here on Commotion was talking about what I have dubbed archival fashion arms race in Hollywood right now, where everyone is pulling these vintage pieces that have been already worn in an effort to get headlines to generate attention. I mean, we live in an economy of attention, as I call it in Hollywood. Everyone is competing for screen time. There's more people than ever competing for that screen time. And seemingly everything that we could ever design has already been worn already. And so as stylists and creative directors, they find themselves tasked with this near impossible mission to make something with a client that is going to last more than a 5-minute news cycle, is going to last longer than the week that we're talking about whatever awards season we find ourselves in, whether that's the Grammys, the Oscars, etc. And so for Chappell to kind of cut through that noise with this dress was remarkable, and something that her and stylist Genesis Webb have done frequently throughout their creative collaboration together.
So I mean, I got to refer to this piece that you wrote on Chappell and that look that she wore to the Grammys. Because in that piece, you said, and I quote, "Ever more fleeting is a feeling of genuine shock, even surprise. So let me personally thank Chappell Roan for reminding me what it feels like to be alive." Joan, you got to unpack that for us. So describe what she was wearing and why that was so shocking to you.
Yeah, wow, what a funny feeling to get jumped with your own writing. God, it's like being haunted by a ghost. What I'm referring to there and what I'm kind of unpacking in the piece is for people at home who maybe haven't seen the dress yet, it's a sheer dress where it is draped across and hung from piercings in her breasts. They're appliques, they're not actually her real piercings, but it's sort of held up by this. And we've seen a lot of sheer dresses from Hollywood over the last 15 years. I think as we moved into the 2010s and pop culture started to experiment more, whether with gender presentation or fashion presentation or what women were allowed to wear out in public, I think norms changed. We have seen a variety of looks, spearheaded in large part by Kim Kardashian and various other pop stars, where more and more of the female body is exposed on the red carpet. And these looks then disseminated into the mainstream. You could shop a sheer dress at H&M and wear, a bra and a panty out to the bar with a sheer dress over it. And so when we see it on the carpet, it's almost like I've seen this before, right? Like, oh gosh, another sheer dress. And so with this, what I'm really getting at is they have taken something that has become passé and they have added real friction to it, which was the purpose of these dresses to begin with, right? It was to shock. I think of Amanda Lepore and David LaChapelle in the 90s, where they would show up to the red carpet in these like very revealing, very provocative outfits, and it was seen as shocking. It would maybe be seen as less shocking now. And so with the inclusion of the piercing and this archival reference to a 1998 Mugler collection, they're really adding an element into this design that has become passé that really shocked a lot of people. I mean, it was a big hubbub online if you were online, and a lot of people were worried, could I even post this? I texted our social media manager at Paper. I was like, are we going to get this post taken down? Because I don't know if Instagram's going to allow us to do that. And when was the last time we had a look on the red carpet that had us all asking that question? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because, there's an aspect of it could be posted on Instagram because they were not real nipple piercings. Like that actually helped beat the bot that captures those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was unpacking that to a friend and also in this piece where I saw a lot of justifiable criticism where people said, it didn't actually go all the way because these aren't actually real nipple piercings, right? There was no actual element of danger or provocation and, a silicone pasty, if you will. And I understand that. I really do hear that. But I also would maybe think like, by sort of skirting the rules in this like loophole kind of way, they're also drawing attention to the fallacy of these rules to begin with, right? If a simple 1 inch diameter pasty is enough to bypass a rule that Instagram has implemented that feminists and critics have rallied against since its implementation, what is actually the purpose of that rule? I think that is also an interesting provocation too. You know, she actually did put it all in front of us and she didn't get these posts taken down. These posts have high engagement. They're all over Google without any sort of safe search warning. And so I think that that is also interesting if we're kind of thinking about the way she subverted this.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, you did mention that this was an like an updated version of an archival piece, right? So I'd love to hear more about the designer behind this piece. What is he known
Yeah.
for?
Mugler was somebody who pioneered these experimental shapes with the female form throughout his career. He was always very interested in the sheer. I mean, if you look up the new updated Mugler, which has just been updated as Mugler, not Terry Mugler, it also pushes a lot of these dresses. If you have seen celebrities out in cutout dresses or mesh bodysuits or anything of the like, that is a Mugler piece and it's referencing an archival Terry Mugler design. But what Terry Mugler was also very interested in was pushing the limits of what we considered human and what the human body could achieve. You know, there is a very iconic design where a woman's bustier is literally being transformed into a motorcycle. And like, it's very much this sort of post-human take on women's fashion. And so I think like with this dress in particular, he was taking something that is a little bit passé, which is a draped, you know, Grecian dress, and adding something that kind of like push the limits of fashion's imagination, right? Like nobody was attaching nipple piercings to dresses, and certainly not in the 90s, which was way more culturally conservative than it is now, despite everything else going on in the world currently.
I love all the images you just put in my head. Women's bodies morphing with motorcycles and bustiers and all these things. So look, like, I mean, there's so many celebrities and designers right now. They are actually trying to be shocking with what they wear. So with that in mind, why is Chappell Roan, what she did, why is that such an outlier at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we have a lot of people in pop music pushing experimental design principles through their looks and through their relationships with their stylists. You know, Chappell Roan is the most visible of these because she inhabits a stage that very few people get to actually inhabit, right? As a Grammy winner, as one of the top artists of our time, as like one of the, you know, prima donna pop girls, as she has been described. You know, she is not these underground artists making underground art. If you look at what she's doing, I think what I find so subversive about this, and it's going to sound like a fallacy as I say it, so bear with me, but she makes music that is rather pedestrian in the pop sphere. You know, her contemporary is Sydney Sweeney. They are working through the sort of same lyrical and, you know, production principles in pop music that their forebears have, like Taylor Swift, right? Like this is a lineage of pop music that has always remained at the forefront. But she's not dressing and she's not presenting herself to the world in that way. She is fearlessly political. She has taken a stand for numerous causes. Most recently, she left her talent agency, Wasserman, over the leaked Epstein files and his relationship with Ghislaine. I think that with that in mind, and with the way that she designs herself, with the way that she is such a fearless champion of her identity and of her LGBTQIA plus fan base, I think that that is really what is so shocking when you also look at the fashion too. She has every right to just put on a prairie dress, wear something rather pedestrian, something off the rack, something like Gucci, for instance, Louis Vuitton, Chanel. She has every right to do that. And many people in her position do that, right? They take the safe route. And she has at every opportunity taken the very unsafe route, whether that's being outspoken in a way that might endanger her career or dressing in a way that might get her admonished in the press. I find that very interesting.
I find everything about her very fascinating. And look, so like, I mean, with Chappell in mind, and as New York Fashion Week is kicking off right now, what are the lessons that stylists and designers who are trying to get people to pay attention, like what are the lessons they can take from Chappell Roan?
I think that more than ever, we had sort of all been funneled to a point in the 2010s and in the early 2020s, and we saw pop kind of coalesce into a single entity for a while, and we sort of lived within that like single entity cookie cutter pop music. I think what Chappell is really identifying correctly and following in the tradition of people like Lady Gaga is that ultimately fearless individualism and fearlessness in identity and beliefs is ultimately what is going to rise your clients to the top, right? Proving that they are a real person, and not real person in the sense like I, go to the bathroom, I eat, I sleep just like you, but that like they actually stand for something. They actually mean something through their art. They are putting care and attention into the way that they look, the way that they dress. I think that at these events like Fashion Week, so much of it has become about, the attention economy. Like I said, you look at old Fashion Week photos, and the people that used to sit front row at Fashion Week were like reality television celebrities and New York socialites, and everyone was wearing jeans. And maybe if you were lucky, like a little shift dress. That was what this used to be. And it used to be seen as pretty desperate and fame hungry to go to Fashion Week and to try to get a photo of yourself, etc. But now you have TikTokers sat next to Oscar winners at these fashion shows because they're all competing for this, right? And so if everyone is here, if everyone looks the same, if everyone is trying to conform to the same principles, ideas, political beliefs, etc., who is actually rising to the top? It's people like Chappell that are rising to the top.
I love that. I love that as a note to go out on. Thank you so much for this, Joan.
Of course. Thank you.
Joan Summers is a senior editor at Paper Magazine. She's in New York, where Fashion Week kicks off today and runs through till Monday. And that's it for the podcast today. Don't forget to check us out on Instagram. We're at Commotion CBC. I'm Radheyan Simonpillai, sitting in for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. I'll see you tomorrow.